ladies and gentlemen, and welcome once again. I must conserve every bit of strength that I can. But we have a wonderful show for you tonight. I know you're going to enjoy.
Well, welcome back to another edition of Cannabis in Canada with Jason Wilcox. Geez, it's Tuesday. We're actually running a live show today simply because of the police continual provocation, in my own opinion, that's going on in the plains. In central parts of Canada, in Edmonton, they went and they hit macros. Then they raided there. They warned Mr. Price with a letter from city police. And yeah, there's just been a lot of stuff going on here. They seem to be really hitting the Central Plains, and we need to keep bringing this to you as it happens. The place was raided this morning. Mr. Price was detained. You know, his wife was detained. A patient was detained. I mean, I don't know where this stops, but I certainly know that we need to put up some sort of pushback against this monopoly. You can't shut down 16-year standing dispensaries and other standing dispensaries with hundreds of patients, you know, citing the fact that you need them to comply with certain regulations that don't exist while you're implementing them in the next city over, like in Calgary. So there's a lot of stuff that's very, very concerning going on. I'm so freaking tired, I can hardly even rant about this. You know, talking with attorneys, talking about all the different stuff that's going on. It is crazy. There is so much going on in the cannabis culture. We need to pay attention. This Allard case is huge. All the stuff that's going on is huge. We need to stay focused and stay exactly in tune with the federal government's moves and with the licensed producers' monopoly moves. I've often said it's coming to the ground. They're going to take our dispensaries. Once they fail to get the freaking gardens, understand this, my friends, they first came and they tried to throw 36,000 medical patients under the bus, citing fire, mold, and organized crime. When they failed to substantiate that, they moved on to the next competitor. That's you, dispensaries. My God, mom and pop dispensaries that even the liberal leader, Mr. Trudeau himself, says should be able to operate, like Mr. Price, who's now detained and probably has to eat a rubber sandwich in the morning and a cold coffee, as we all have had to do, taking our shares in this battle of the so-called drug war as they usher in the new LP agenda, you know, to tell us how to sell and buy cannabis in this country, you know, when they fail to even produce for the medical patients that stand now. On that note, I'm not gonna rant and rave all night. I really need to dig into this. First on the show tonight, we're gonna have Mr. Stephen Stairs, and then afterwards we're gonna have Jerry Martin. First off, let me welcome Stephen Stairs back to the show. Welcome, Stephen.
Thanks for having me, Jason.
So you're gonna be speaking tonight on behalf of the headquarters. Is that correct?
That's right. I'll be there for the evening.
Okay, so what's the full name of, now Glenn has been, now the full name of the dispensary is what again? I should have this in my notes, but I just rushed into this.
Well, there's two businesses. There's Your Medical Cannabis Headquarters, which was the original vape lounge. And then there's technically the business name for the dispensary is Your Medical Cannabis Services. Now they operate out of kind of a joint building that's kind of got some separate retail establishments that Glenn occupies. But they are different businesses, but they have both been shut down.
Interesting. So when they served him the notice before and just said to him that he should shut down, he went ahead and reopened. You know, when I say them, me and the Winnipeg Police Department suddenly has this ability to shut down these dispensaries. And again, I believe that was Pam McCall or whatever her name is. Is that correct? She's kind of started this kind of campaign against that dispensary. Is that accurate, Stephen?
Yeah, from what we've heard, apparently Pamela McCool has decided to, branch herself out of province and tackle, the prairies for dispensaries. I guess she wasn't getting a lot of luck in BC. I guess you guys were putting up a good enough fight for her that she felt like she could pick on just one dispensary instead of 90,
And that's what's making me so mad, man. It really is, because they know they can tackle the Central Plains, take out a 16-year standing club, take out another club, take out the small ones, set up more regulations in Kimberley, BC. You know, look this stuff up. These cities are regulating with a mandate that follows the LP agenda, you know, and it's a serious issue when we're shutting down the mom and pop stores that's truly servicing medical patients in Canada in favor of a monopoly that is simply failing over and over to actually provide reasonable access to patients. What's your thoughts on that, Stephen?
Well, I really think that you're hitting the nail on the head there, Jason. I mean, the current system, along with the previous system, although at least with the previous system we were allowed to grow as patients, unfortunately new patients aren't allowed that right. But both systems are failing regarding access. And Glenn, along with many other dispensary owners across this country, are filling that void that the federal government is putting in place in a healthcare system that is already burdened by, numerous things in life that the federal government, again, doesn't want to tackle. So to shut Glenn down and shut other businesses down, like Macros in Edmonton, for example, is just plain counterintuitive towards the police mandate of protecting the public. In this cases and other cases across the country, they are continuing to harm the public, and that, for me, it's just shameful.
It is. Again, I've said this over and over. To throw 36,000 patients under the bus is shameful. To allow a monopoly to set up with the legislative arm in Canada is shameful. And to allow a monopoly to try and sell cannabis to this country in the future under a legalization model is also shameful. I'm a patriot to Canada, but I don't like monopolies. I don't like big business. This isn't alcohol. This isn't something they should need to control like a gun. I keep saying this. And now they've got their dogs. I hate to say dogs, but when the police start barking like dogs, they're no longer acting like civil servants. They're barking. The question is, whose servant? Who's commanded this new budget? Like here in Vancouver, my friends got maced recently. I'm sure you heard Stephen on Cannabis Day. Some of my friends got maced for having a peaceful assembly with a new event squad that's been put together, and the government's new watch over these different groups. I wonder if this isn't all just part of a larger agenda that's national.
Well, and I feel that you again are exactly right, Jason, is that there is a mandate or a push or a demand from the federal government, whether or not it be from the Conservative Party itself or the RCMP or the Justice Department or whatever it might be, to really crack down on dispensaries and advertising and things like that. I mean, Rhoda Ambrose just released that reiteration from Health Canada, explicitly outlining the illegalities of advertising medical marijuana. And I think, honestly, that's part of what, frankly, Edmonton, Winnipeg are falling victim to, is that they know that this trafficking bull that they try to pin on dispensary owners, who are really just providing medical access to a much needed medicine for patients, to label them as this is just false. They are completely compassionate places helping out the community, and to shut them down is just absurd. And I frankly, I think that when we run into a situation where they're getting shut down, it's got to be, that the police are a lot of these police are everyday citizens. I mean, we can't knock all the police. A lot of them are your everyday citizens. They're your neighbor, right? They're cannabis users too. However, they fall under the guise of a much bigger, big brother issue than we ever think we're falling victim to, because they're forced to carry the hand of a government that, frankly, they may not even agree with. But if they want to lose their livelihood, they can't just disobey the law. So as a police unit, I think Winnipeg Police and other police departments are forced to carry out a federally mandated law that they know is unjust, but they're getting pressure from whether or not it be federal, municipal, or provincial levels of government to carry out this law. And frankly, I bet you a lot of them are really sad that they've had to do today what they did.
Well, exactly, and this goes back to the hypocrisy, I like to say, here in our democracy, where they allow this this shutting down of mom and pop stores, the displacement of patients, the community necessity defense we've used here in Vancouver for years, I think still stands. I don't think the federal government's in a position to properly supply Mr. Price's patients. They're now displaced. They have nowhere to go tomorrow, and I believe in a landmark legal case known as HITSIG, it was said medical patients do not need to rely on Quarter Street drug dealers. Otherwise, it's unconstitutional. Everybody seems to forget about this. It's constitutional law in HITSIG. It's in the language of the decision that you're not to rely on Corner Street drug dealers. And right now, all Mr. Price's patients, unless there's fallback and contingencies, which I'm sure that there is, but a majority of them are now displaced thanks to the city of Winnipeg. And again, who gave the order for the police to go forward? Was this through just complaints to the police force? This is going to come out, I'm sure, in the long run. Do we know how many charges were laid against Glenn and Sandra?
Sandra was let go of all free of charges. They threatened her and intimidated her with charges that could have stuck, but there was nothing that they could hold her on. Sandra, frankly, is nothing more in this situation currently than a really supportive wife and a great asset to the community as herself. So, I'm really glad that Sandra is free of charges as well as the patient. Unfortunately, at this time, it's late at night here in Winnipeg. It's almost 10 o'clock at night, and we still have frankly not heard about Glenn, which is a little disconcerting, and it's might cause some. If we haven't heard from Glenn by tomorrow this time, we will stage very vocal public protests.
No, an attorney could easily. Does Glenn have an attorney on retainer? Because an attorney can easily find out where he is, get a statement for the public, so that we know he's okay.
From what I've heard, very prominent lawyers in the cannabis community have already reached out to Glenn, or Glenn has reached out to them, or vice versa, and he is getting the much-needed legal support that he needs. We might need to fundraise him for him, but he'll get the proper defense that he deserves if he is forced to go to trial or to some sort of hearing regarding these charges. Hopefully, they'll just intimidate him a little bit. God forbid, even that, and then they'll let him go.
No, that's true. And now with these mandatory minimums that they've instituted and everything else, they've got a lot of leverage. Well, what's the headquarters going to do now? Or sorry, not the headquarters basically. What's it going to do now for its membership?
A head shop, or not head shop, a vape lounge where community patients, whether or not they were buying there or not, were still going as a resource center, as an access place, for not even just medicine, but just the devices maybe to consume their medicine. I mean, some people don't have a vaporizer, so they go there to vaporize, right? Healthy. So I'm not really sure what's going to go on, frankly. I'm in constant communication with Glenn's daughter right now, trying to put a contingency plan in place that doesn't put other patients at risk of persecution by the police without knowing what's going to go on with Glenn first. I mean, we have to be safe and responsible for the community that we represent here as much as we try to supply them with access. We can't put any of them in danger. So, I mean, there will be access. I guarantee you it. It may not be the customary, Your Medical Cannabis Headquarters look or even location. But I guarantee you there will be some sort of contingency plan to look after the 400 plus patients that Glenn is helping out in the city.
Absolutely, and that's good to hear. Like I said, I'm sure there's contingency plans. It still makes me very concerned because, once again, it puts people into very awkward positions and patients into positions of having to, deal with people they trust, but at the same time, sometimes have to potentially deal with, quote unquote, the underground or the illicit market. And when you get into that, then it's a whole different level of security of the person that becomes an issue. And patients in wheelchairs shouldn't be buying from drug dealers in a corner of an alley or in the street or having it delivered to their house and putting themselves at risk of more federal statutes that could be levied against them in relation to trafficking, because it's not the legal supply. These are kind of some of the things that concern me. Now, the patient that was arrested and tagged and bagged and released, was there any charges laid or just a catch and release?
No, again, just an intimidation, kind of, hey, you shouldn't be here kind of thing. Apparently, I cannot confirm this directly from the patient, but from what Stacy has mentioned to me, Glenn's daughter, again, to reiterate, she had mentioned to me that apparently the patient was a little, upset about what was going on while the arrest was happening. And that might have been enough for them to take them in as just, well, you don't like what we're doing kind of thing, so we're gonna take you in and they intimidate you a little bit because you're not being copacetic towards what we're doing. So I'm not really sure what happened, but definitely there was some intimidation tactics for sure regarding Sandra and the patient that was taken.
So with Sandra now, she's been released with no charges, so they obviously couldn't give her any conditions or anything either. So she's just released and that's it. Glenn's the only one facing charges right now?
Correct. However, and there's another thing that, first off, we don't have a warrant. So we don't have a copy of a warrant that supposedly was issued. And we've been waiting on it all day. So we're not really sure what's going on with that to begin with. So we don't even know the legal, purposes or places or things to be in place were there when this happened. So that's something that we're going to challenge anyway. The second thing is that Sandra was also told not to go back to the shop. Now, we don't know if that was on, again, like an intimidation tactic to deter her or anybody else from reopening, or if there is some sort of further investigation that's going on where they, plan on going back to the store. I'm not really sure what's going on. However, I can confirm that Sandra was told not to go back to the store by the police.
Okay, so this is once again, people or friends, and for our people watching live, if you want to ask questions to Mr. Stairs, myself, or to Jerry, Mr. Stairs is speaking tonight on behalf of Mr. Price. So it's important that if you have questions out there and you want to know, feed them through to us so we can actually get them out. This is important stuff. My concern here, Stephen, is that they're going to continue now on to Edmonton and displace even more patients with macros as they look to regulate these dispensaries that really don't exist in Calgary, the heart of Harpertown. So what's your thoughts on some of that stuff?
Well, I definitely feel that cities, unfortunately, if they don't have a well-established cannabis community in those cities, we will, as a cannabis community as a whole, we will probably fall victim to the lack of education amongst city councilors across this country, and we will probably fall victim to, again, some very draconian laws and bylaws that regulate these industries. I know, for example, in Vancouver, I mean, they were proposing that the $30,000 registration fee, which was, a very prohibitive cost to some people. And I'm just afraid as we get into a more conservative, less, progressive area of the country, that these bylaws and these regulations are just going to get more and more extreme, whether or not they're, going from 500 meters, from a school to 5,000 meters, which basically excludes any area of the city from having one. There's a lot of worry that I have regarding Edmonton, Vancouver, not Vancouver, Victoria, and Winnipeg going forward, because apparently one of our city councils is in favor of regulating these as well. I don't know the stance he's going to take on it, but again, that's something that a well-established cannabis community here has an opportunity to vocalize our opinion and what's best for patients. So I think in cities like Edmonton and stuff and in other places, Calgary, for example, that are facing these kind of regulations going forward, I think it's really on the onus of that cannabis community locally to really put up as much of a fight as we can. So at least if the regulations come down that aren't in favor towards our community, at least we can say we've done what we tried, or we did what we were supposed to do, and we gave it our best. And we can keep working forward, going forward from there as to making those laws better. Absolutely.
And that's what needs to happen here. I mean, in all honesty, I know a lot of people that are watching the show or people that hear our messages, they think, it's just going to be the way it was before. We're just going to do it underground. I would remind everybody that as of April 1st, there is a federal legal supply that care about their investments called the MMPR and licensed producers. And there's also mandatory minimums the Conservative government introduced. So you can now do mandatory time for growing a few plants or for trafficking X amount of cannabis. And that's what people have to look at when we're looking at the severities of everything that's going on here. Now, Stephen, just on a side note, now you're running it for office there as well in your region, is that correct?
I actually am, yeah.
Well, maybe fill us in. I know that's a side note, but let's fill us in. We got 5 more minutes or so here to finish up. Unless there's more here we can close out on that. But I mean, is there additional stuff? I'm going to be speaking with Jerry Martin coming up after break, and he apparently has a quote from Mr. Tusaw, who's been in converse with Mr. Price, and certainly has something to say about this issue. So please stay tuned for that when we come back later. But Stephen, for now, is there anything at all that you can add to this story? I know it's breaking. It just happened this morning, and we're bringing it to everybody live. But at the same time, is there additional stuff here that we need to cover that I'm missing, or aside from the key issues we've touched on? Patients are being displaced, arbitrarily restricted, and there's no other option except to order through a mail system that's clearly in the courts been seen as overpriced.
That's right. Well, definitely, I think we've touched on a lot of things tonight. One thing that I would really like to get out there to the cannabis community that's watching, as well as ones that will watch in the future, is that this is not something that Winnipeg is going to take. And I know it's not something that Vancouver will take or any other municipality in this country will take. We as patients deserve access, and we're going to guarantee that access in the city. And whether or not that's through a very public demonstration, which I can guarantee you will be coming, or some other means of getting to the to the table to sit down and actually be able to bargain for our rights and actually put our legislation forward that guarantees our rights being asserted and respected. So I don't know where it's going to go from here in the next couple of days, but I guarantee you that as a community here in Winnipeg, we will be as loud as Vancouver has been for the past 2 decades. We are a very small community here, but when something like this goes on, we will not stand for it. And I guarantee you that in the next couple of days, you will see a large coming together of the Winnipeg cannabis community, as surrounding areas for that matter. And we will show the federal government, the Winnipeg Police Department, and the city of Winnipeg and its constituents and its citizens that we are respectable, well-adjusted members of society who just need access to our medicine, and that's all we want.
Absolutely, and again, dignified access and reasonable access has already been challenged and established in the courts all the way up to the Supreme Court of Canada. And while the government's still in disarray over their supply and distribution network and the questionable nature of it being the licensed producers, the reality is patients on the ground need to have access as set out by the courts. The federal government's not in a position to fully provide that because their licensed producers haven't caught up to speed yet for a host of different excuses. But whatever it is, there's 1 million medical patients in Canada that need access to marijuana. And right now, the licensed producers are servicing 20,000 plus. Good job. Good job, guys. Stephen, in closing, any remarks here before we go to commercial break?
Well, I mean, if you want, I can do a little blurt about my campaign if you want.
Absolutely.
Keep that short if you want.
Plug it in, man. And actually, you can give us the links. Now, there's a GoFundMe started for Glenn Price. Do you have the information on that first that we can just feed out?
I don't have the information on me in hand. Stacy's actually working on rewording it right now since he's been arrested. So I will send that information to you as soon as we have it updated. There is a GoFundMe page though for Glenn that is established that I will be sharing as soon as I have the proper updated information. But honestly, if you guys or anybody out there is willing to support the legal fund that will be probably needed for Glenn, definitely keep it up to date with myself, the web page or the Facebook page for the shop, as well as if you've been following any of the news lately here from Winnipeg, I'm sure they'll be abreast of the fundraising that we're doing for Glenn. So definitely, if you can contribute, we'd much appreciate it. I'm probably going to auction off this shirt now. Apparently, it's a pretty good idea, guys.
Nice. Well, we need all the support we can get. Anybody in the Winnipeg area, troops, rally up. I mean, we can't continue to hide and we can't pretend this isn't happening. It's going on across this country. It started with medical patients in their gardens, and now it's moving on. And this country needs to decide what the cannabis culture has fought for legalization. Not legalize now and fix it later. We fought for legalization, not implementation of a monopoly. On that note, this is Jason Wilcox. We'll see you when we get back with Mr. Jerry Martin from Martin Medicinals.
These days, it seems like there are consultants for everything, but no matter who you hire for your project, you always feel like another number. That is what makes Root & Branch different. Root & Branch is a full-service consulting firm that specializes in customized nonprofit and political consultation. We pride ourselves in our ability to meet a diverse range of needs while ensuring that our clients are continuously dealt with in a manner that gets the results they desire. Come and visit us at rootandbranch.co.
Okay, welcome back to the Cannabis Again with Jason Wilcox. We're standing out here of Budzilla. We've got the Cannabis Growers of Canada up and the Cannabis Rights Coalition tents up. And we're here for the summer gathering this year. And the volunteers are just coming together, having some pizza, learning what the coalition's new mandate is and the expansion of that mandate and just what all that means.
Hi guys, hi everybody, my name's Reg, I'm from Budzilla. Basically what we're doing now is we're reorganizing things, we're getting people stoked, it's summertime, it's beautiful outside. So what we're gonna do is collectively get together, we got the tents right out in front of Budzilla. What we're trying to do basically is we're trying to unite. what we're going to do is we're going to get a national organization that has an expanded mandate where we're going to take care of cannabis rights for everybody in Canada. And we're going to have a lot more information on the website at the Cannabis Rights Coalition website.
Battle cry to everybody. Look to the state of Oregon. Look to the state of Colorado. There's a free and fair market. There's no crime. There's no violence. There's no issues other than people are bringing stuff in because there isn't enough supply. Same problem they have in Oregon. But there's a free and fair market. So what is the U.S. doing wrong that Canada is not doing right? Is that we've been lied to about a federal marijuana scheme that doesn't exist because there's no medical value to marijuana in the country of Canada. And that medical marijuana scheme now has its aims on the British, or its aim set for the British Columbia market and the cannabis culture here in Canada.
It's time to get serious. It's time to get united. And what we're going to do is going to have a major impact. So if you want to have your hand in changing Canadian history, now's the time to get organized and do something about it. Be serious, people. Let's do something.
What are you going to tell your grandkids or your kids when they grow up and they read the history books about what went down in this country for the rights to cannabis use for medical patients and legalization? What are you going to tell them you did about that monopoly that came in? Did you let Molson Cannabis just move in on Canada and buy the cannabis culture, or did you stand your ground? On that note, let's go inside, Reg, and pump our troops up.
All right, guys, take care. Thank you.
All right, check us out at cannabisrightscoalition.ca.
Introducing Jade Maple, the only media and consulting company in Canada that utilizes seasoned experts in the cannabis industry. In a growing business environment, it can be hard to hold your ground. Like allies in battle, we help hold your fort from the city's regulations and legal uncertainties. Your energy goes into quality of product. Our energy goes into quality of image. How far do you want to go? Dispensary Solutions at jademaple.com.
Very strange how this creature goes right for this cannabis plant. Little does it know it needs a license. It's not threatened at all by government bureaucracy. I believe they call this species the chicken. Wow. What a brave beast this is. The chicken.
Welcome back, and well, yeah, you gotta love that chicken commercial. That's that's a friend of mine that his chickens certainly love their hemp. But on a more serious note, it's hard for me not to get emotional about this stuff. It's hard for me not. As you can see, we've been calling this play for over a year that these guys were coming and that they're going to do what they're doing. That patients are going to be displaced, and not only if you took away their gardens, but patient providers that can't provide for the patients anymore also provides barriers to access and infringes on reasonable access. It's arbitrary, it's not right, and I don't know why it's happening when the federal government failed to even prove they had a supply in Allard. The licensed producer scheme is failing. I want to give a shout out to cannabisrightscoalition.ca, who's taken up amazing initiatives and efforts in a right to stand up and push back against this monopoly on all faucets, politically, legally, and advocacy. So looking forward to what we're doing in the future, as well as with the Cannabis Growers of Canada.ca. Go check them out, see what we're up to, get involved. Talk to your local dispensaries that are in the loop and getting crushed, because they know how to get involved. There is a way to push back, my friends, and it's not sitting on your ass. You need to get up, take a stand, and do something about this. On that note, I have Mr. Jerry Martin from Martin Medicinals on the phone with us, or on Skype here with us. Welcome to the show, Jerry.
Hi, Jason. How you doing?
Yeah, doing great. Now, you're the second spokesperson now for Mr. Glenn Price in relation to this raid. Now, you have a lot more details, of course. You have a quote from Mr. Tusa, I understand.
I do. From this afternoon is what Kirk said, and he said he was in good/decent spirits.
Kurt said, sorry, what?
He said he was in good/decent spirits when he spoke to him this afternoon.
Okay, good. So when Kurt spoke to Glenn directly, excellent.
That's correct, yes.
Okay. And so that means we now know that Kurt is at least has got that message out to us, because some people were worried earlier, as you heard Mr. Stairs was saying that there was some concern. And to the viewers that are watching, please spread that out, that Mr. Tusaw is on this, good legal counsel, learned legal counsel, and definitely done his work in the courts and in representing dispensaries and patient rights, and understands the fundamental right that is at the end of all this, is patients' access and fundamental right to autonomy. Now, Jerry, what can you tell us about this particular raid this morning that we may not know? Any particulars on the arrest warrant, anything that we may not have been able to cover yet? Tell us what you got.
Yeah, I know that the patient that was arrested, we won't mention his last name, but I'm sure we're okay with his first name. Scott came to see me. He said it was horrible. They were very. He said it was disconcerting, I believe was the term he used. They were very rude. I member there that could barely walk, clearly spinal issues or some sort of issue. They were very rude to him. They were very rude to everybody, and apparently they handcuffed him and would not let him go. They asked if he was under arrest. They said no. They asked him, am I being detained for a reason? They said no. He said, well, can I go? And of course the answer was no. So he got himself his lawyer on the phone, and he was out of those handcuffs pretty quick. And then on his way to see me, obviously, to get some medicine, because Glenn was wrongfully closed down. It's just a horrible experience that his family went through, I'm sure.
Wow, that's it's I got a lot going through my head right now. I'm kind of stumped here on we've been working on this since this morning when you and I talked, when we learned that this was breaking, and we've been working on this all day and looking at what's going on. And I feel I'm really happy that Kurt's on that. That's one thing. And most importantly,
the first thing I did was message Kurt, and I offered funding for that as well, just to be sure that Glenn did have some representation. So.
Geez, Jerry, you do so much for the community, man. So there you go, my friends. Another example of how we can push back, collectively and together. On that note, I'd like to thank the Concentrate Comp Open for raising some more money to fight towards the Allard trial, and to help commence those fundings. We appreciate all your help. Now, on that note, I'd like to give shout-outs where I can, Jerry. I'm trying to lighten this up a little bit, but where exactly do you see this going? You run your own dispensary in the same general region. So, how are you feeling right now about your position?
Well, I'm feeling a little pressured. I'm right in the middle of, macros, and now your cannabis medical headquarters is shut down. Now I'm right dead center. The only reason I don't see Pam McCall coming for me is from her quote earlier in the Winnipeg Sun, saying that everybody's just doing it for money, and clearly I give all the money away, so they haven't got that on me. But I do feel a lot of pressure, you know what I mean? Those other two places, your medical cannabis headquarters today and macros have been supporting people for quite some time. Maybe not Winnipeg quite as long, but both of them are doing it for the right reasons. And those people are medical patients that are coming in, and they need to be treated like medical patients, not like criminals.
Precisely, and that's my biggest issue. I mean, people often see me look aggressive. They don't understand my passion. And really, when you're fighting for medical rights and you're a medical patient yourself, passion can sometimes come across as aggression. But understand that your weed warriors, your frontline fighters, the people you're seeing put their necks out for you, are the people that truly do believe in what we're doing and truly believe in this medicine as a holistic herb that doesn't need to be governed by a gun. Now, is there anything else? Was there anything on the? I understand there was no warrant given, which seems strange. They didn't leave an arrest warrant.
I don't find that, bro. Well, I guess maybe that is strange, but it seemed to take whatever they want in Vancouver. From what I've seen on some paperwork, they don't mark down the money, these sort of things, or they'll mark down the money and not the cannabis. I don't find it out of the ordinary whatsoever myself, but that's just my opinion.
Okay, well, that's fair. It's something, it's right now we're looking at two different raids back to back in your region, and now we're also looking at the monopoly coming to Vancouver. And I keep talking about this, that what's going on here in Vancouver is not up to par. This is not in the best interest of medical patients, it's in the best interest of profits. And when people put profits above patients, it's where activists come out like myself, and I certainly know, Jerry, you're behind this a lot too, where we put our money where our mouths is. We put our time and our efforts where our mouths are. We don't sit back and sit on the couch and pretend to be activists without actually acting.
That's true. I was a fence sitter for a while, and it was disturbing for myself.
Well, that's a good point. People on the fence and again, to each their own. People that advance what they want to do, that's fine. To each their own. But at this time, there is a war going on in this country. I've said this many times. I don't like using the word war, but it's for supply and distribution. They started with the genetics, wanting our gardens. Now they're going to go after the dispensaries, any patient suppliers, so that you'll go buy from them. They still don't get it. People will just go to dialysis systems.
With weapons, it's a war. They're taking your rights away. They're taking your freedoms away. They're making you feel dehumanized. Is what they're doing to people, and it's not right. And people need to stand up and they need to fight for themselves. And we need to do that as a collective, like what the Cannabis Rights Coalition's doing. No more people need to check that out.
Absolutely. No, it is a national collective. Now, on a little side note, we are heading into Ontario, Jerry, for August 24th and 25th. There's going to be an Extract Express bus heading out there in Ontario on the 24th, and on the 25th is a fundraiser. I believe we're both going to be attending. Is that safe to say?
That is correct. I'll be booking my ticket tonight.
Beautiful. So that's just a shout out for our Ontario people there that can know that we're coming down, and we're looking forward to seeing you all down there. There's a group of us coming down. So back to the story now. Again, I don't know what the arguments are going to be from a legal position, other than the fact that the community necessity defense would be there. I'm not here to try and contemplate legal analogies. I'm just wondering whether Glenn's going to come back out with the traditional stance of reopening, and just directly challenging the authority, or whether he's just going to lawyer up and fight this through the legal system.
It's a very scary situation for him, I think it would certainly help if some other dispensaries moved in there, to help support him. I've already got my place there. I'm sure a lot of people know that. I've already located a place, and we've registered our business license. After today, quite frankly, I'd still go. It makes no difference to me. That's what I do. I have investors involved in this one, so we're going to have to talk to them. But as for myself, and I can speak for myself, I would most definitely still go and take the challenge and open up there in support of Glenn.
Yeah, no, and we say this again, it takes a lot of guts to open up a dispensary. It takes a lot of guts to service medical patients in any way. But for those that are looking to venture into this, do it now and take a stand for a market that's free and fair. They've already taken control of the big game, the big corporate entities.
That's the exact point of it. It needs to be free and fair trade. This is Canada. We've had enough of our rights taken away. This is how countries are built. This is how they take people out of poverty, is fair trade. Properly grown, medicines. It's brought to a fair market. There's no illegal operations in fair trade. It's a monitored thing, and there's no reason that private companies or dispensaries or even yourself shouldn't have the rights to grow cannabis. It's a plant.
Exactly. It's a harmless plant. I was just talking about this today. There's no lethal dose rate. There's no addiction over and above that of caffeine, and it's available to kids in every goddamn corner store. This whole Save the Kids campaign is arbitrary and just, again, more examples of reefer madness 2015.
The lies that they're putting directly, I believe, that we saw in, I think it was the Abbotsford new coloring book that they put out, that cannabis kills people more than, for cancer, more than cigarettes.
Really?
And that is straight out propaganda and lies, and I don't know how they get away with that.
What's your take on this? We need to save the kids. Let's give, highly concentrated extracts, oils and tinctures that, again, a kid gets some of that in their mouth, they're definitely going to get knocked out, versus brownie that isn't necessarily going to, do anything more than put the kid to sleep. Even if they did, again, this is my biggest argument about Save the Kids stuff, is that I'm not a big promoter for kids. Believe me, I have a child. I'm a father. I believe in keeping kids away, but at the same time, there's prescription drugs in my house. There's antiretrovirals that, you know, are second only to chemotherapy. You know, and these things are not regulated the way they're trying to regulate the way I store my cannabis or have my cannabis. With this arbitrary, you can only have 150 grams because you might hurt someone.
Sorry, Jason. Yeah, they're the biggest killer out there is prescription pharmacy drugs. And children, that's what they get into. And then there's been endless stories about that, endless proof.
Exactly.
It's just it's retarded. And as for the children, there are high CBD extracts that are lab tested that are under 1%. That is certainly not going to harm them or get them high. There are dangers with high CBD extracts versus just plain cannabis that the medical community and that the dispensary community should learn a little more about, actually. But that's just when you're dealing with a high CBD extract.
And this is very important because now Glenn does have at least 5 children that I know of that he represents in this fashion. And there's a lot of children that you represent. And here in British Columbia, of course, we have laid the landmarks for children to learn to fight so parents can fight so their children can stop having seizures, stop going brain dead while, you know, the medical establishment and the legislative arm figure out what the hell to do with a safe and harmless herb that's never killed anybody.
That's correct. Like Baby MJ, I'm sure that's on Facebook there. We just sent them out some CBD oil. Shout out to Hempel too, Antoinette. Certainly, she's been over there the last couple of days delivering the oil to them. And that hospital, Vancouver, is so much proactive towards cannabis and medication. Cannabis as a medication, I should say, than the rest of the country. That's for sure.
Absolutely. Now, Jerry, you're all over the country doing a lot of good things. You've donated a lot to the coalition. You give $250 a month to our Volunteer of the Month nationally. You've given tons of donations out. You really do give a lot back to the community. I guess what can we see on the horizon for Martin Medicinals? You mentioned moving. Are you going to open up then in Winnipeg? Is that the expansion?
That is an absolute 100% go with me. I will take the challenge. Again, I'm going to have to talk to the people that are putting up the building to verify that. But for myself, I would definitely go still. I think if a bigger company with a name went in there, they'd have a little more of a challenge shutting someone like me down with Kirk as as our regular dispensary lawyer on retainer. That may put a little more fear into them, and they know that we give all the money back to the community. So how can you possibly arrest us for drug dealing when we give all the money back? In fact, we just donated $10,000 to fix the pool in town here. Our town loves us. We love them, and we just hope we're here to stay for quite some while.
I find it ironic that we're drug dealing while the guys in the corporate entities, they're allowed to simply put it in the mail and mail it to somebody, and there's no real concerns other than, oh yeah, they need the child-proof packaging again to make sure the kids don't get into the oils. This is the stuff that I just think is so arbitrarily restrictive when there is no lethal death dose.
We've got the child-proof packaging now, Jason. High CBD, Haley's Comet, and the RSO.
Yeah, no, what my point is, though, is that, worst case scenario, let's just take RSO, for instance. If a child accidentally took the whole syringe, just shoved it in their mouth and swallowed it all, what would happen? My dog's done this stuff with my cookies.
For a couple of days, they're going to get scared, but certainly nothing long-lasting physical is ever going to harm them.
This is my point. So why the arbitrary restrictions on needing to govern it like a gun? It's not a pharmaceutical. It's not alcohol. It's a safe and harmless herb.
Yeah, it's money and it's control. If they can't control the people, they can't fill the jails. If they can't fill the jails, they're not making money. It's an endless cycle of criminal activity. It's suppressing the people, hurting the people, keeping them under the thumb.
What do you think about them regulating dispensaries in Calgary? Well, have you thought about going there and saying, hey, you know what, I'm going to regulate one here too then? Because I think they're implementing...
I've been really contemplating asking my town. I've done a lot for this town. I don't know what kind of response I'm going to get, but it's out there now. So I think I'm going to move forward. I've donated almost $60,000 in 7 months here, and I think it's great for the town, and I think it could be really great for every small town in every big city if the dispensaries went in there, and they went in there for the right reason. There's no reason they can't pay themselves a salary. I don't myself at this point, but there's no reason they can't pay themselves a salary and still have a ton of money to give away. I don't see the other drugstores giving nothing away. I kind of challenged our drugstore in town here. I paid for the pool. I challenged them to put up the pool house. We'll see how that goes.
Well, it's like us. We've challenged the LPs to step up and actually pay for some of the, the costly trials and stuff that are actually advancing their agenda, or to step up in any capacity and really try and help people other than their profit margins and their long-term ROIs, which is return on investment.
To see what they can do, so they should definitely be in there helping us fund those fees. That's for sure.
Especially again, situations like this, in my own opinion, LPs are standing on the sidelines as they always have because their agenda is to shut down our clubs and introduce their clinics. And this is what we have to oppose.
I've been to a few meetings too where the other option is, and this could be a very good option since we're such strong fighters and we don't give up, is they're going to try and get us to sell their cannabis because it's tested and da-da-da. And it comes from a lab, or whatever they call themselves.
That's their end game, and this is my biggest issue. Their end game is that with a strike of the word compliance, once they box up BC into a little box with a certain amount of dispensaries, a strike of the word compliance means they'll sell LP weed, they'll sell the tinctures and oils from LPs, and everything else in the BC economy is cut out.
Well, that's it. And the other restriction on 25 there, I believe it's 19 out there. It's 18 here for me. You're an adult. You can take opiates. You can get your own. You know what I mean? You should be allowed to take your own medicine, especially natural medicine.
Shoot heroin here, Jerry.
Otherwise, we're excluding all those people.
Jerry, we can shoot heroin here. I mean, honestly, I could go to a safe injection site today and go shoot heroin if I like. So what the hell? Why can't patients go use cannabis?
One of those people for a very long time, not heroin, but cocaine, and cannabis saved my life from that.
Exactly. This is my point. But I'm not harping on on Insight. I think Insight's a prime example of where there's a constitutional right for addicts to not have harm. And at this point,
we should have that. I believe it's in Section 56. I think all us dispensaries should be, be allowed to operate under that. Injection sites. These are safe places where people can get their medicine. Where not only they get their medicine, they get education and someone that cares. Because those LPs don't give a flying fuck. Excuse my language.
No, don't do it. No worries. It's a fundamental feeling that resonates across the country. Part of the reason that we do this awareness and why we're going on these campaigns is to push back. You want to have your conferences out there. Again, this licensed producer scheme has these cultivating seeds of change, and we need to bring everybody together. We need to do this. There does need to be cultivating any change. There just needs to be a proper free and fair market in the country of Canada, not a monopoly that was set up with a legislative arm under the word medical, when, as again, I keep saying this, the health minister said there's no medical value to marijuana in the country of Canada officially. So how could they set up $25 million companies?
Well, that's it. You know what I mean? It's always been that way, though. They do what they want. We can't do anything, and that's where we're back to fair trade.
Exactly, and it's going to be a fight. On that note, Jerry, where can people find yourself? I know you are tonight speaking for Mr. Price. Is there anything you would like that Mr. Price wanted to get out, or Mr. Tuso asked that he wanted to get out, aside from the fact that he's doing okay and we know that Kurt's on it?
I didn't get a chance to speak with Glenn, but I have met Glenn several times, and I can tell you this: Glenn is doing it from the heart. He's a compassionate soul, and I really encourage everybody to go out and support him. And if we're going to close, I'd certainly like to close by donating $1,000 to Glenn's legal fees, and I'll also be doing the same for support over for Macros over the next few months.
Right on, Jerry. That's awesome stuff. And again, we're going to be doing some. There's a lot of stuff going on. There's gears moving and shifting in the cannabis culture. Some would like to say the underground. Call it what you want. It's a war. And we need to have this dialogue, we need to have this beef, we need to kick up dust, and there needs to be dialogue and people at the table. This isn't a war about, there needs to be an underground, there needs to be an above ground. This is a war about the people saying we want a free and fair market in Canada, and not a Molson Cannabis top-down model that is being forced upon the Canadian people. They just can't see it yet. If we legalize and allow this sort of monopoly into our countries, as you've seen on the commercial break, what are you going to tell your kids? What stand did you take at this time, this historic time in Canadian history? What stand did you take when the monopoly moved into Canada to take over cannabis from the people of Canada?
Very true. Very true.
So, All right, Jerry. Thanks again for coming on the show. Martin Medicinals, guys, check out Jerry online, especially on Facebook. It's one of his stomping grounds. You can get a lot of information, see the good work that he's doing. We're going to keep covering Mr. Price. I was up since 7 this morning. I know it's late there, your time, Jerry. This has been, again, another show we wanted to expose what's going on. This is now 2 clubs rated in the Central Plains, and they've regulated dispensaries in Kimberley, BC. So that's 4 cities now regulating dispensaries.
My website's marijuanamailorders.com.
There you go, marijuanamailorders.com. So on that note, everybody, please stay tuned. We're going to have the Thursday live show, and we're going to keep covering this as it breaks out, because I think that they're picking their fights, and they're deciding where they want to launch stuff. And right now it's the Central Plains and Central Canada. Let's deal with this stuff, guys, and let's make our voices known. Support Mr. Price. Go to the GoFundMe marker there. And people of the coalition, please stand up in this region. Find out how to rally to this cause, because if it impacts patients, it's our mandate under the Cannabis Rights Coalition to address this particular issue. On that note, this is Jason Wilcox, tired as hell, but still reporting on the Monopolies agenda and the LP agenda here in Canada. We'll see you on Thursday night. Cheers.
Cannabis in Canada.